And welcome to the Crawford Podcasting Network for another episode of Tom's Take Plus One. Plus one. I haven't done a plus one in a long time, and I cannot think of a better person to do a plus one, which basically brings in somebody I respect on a personal level, business level, work ethic, passion for what they do. And there is absolutely no person who better describes that than Jeff Gump, my longtime sports photography colleague that I've reconnected with recent times. Jeff Gump of Gump Solutions, Coach Gump, a new effort coming up that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Sports photographer, all around good dude. Jeff Gump, how you doing, my friend?
I am good. I got up this morning and I walked my mile with my wife. You know, that's the best time when you can have that bonding relationship. Now I'm back and I'm really excited to see you, Tom. You know, we've got a long history, almost 20-year history, and It's exciting to see you again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like people talk about, oh, Tom, you got such a great gig right now in sports media, stuff like that ties in with the Michigan Wolverines and things. But I'm telling you, I tell people, I had a 25-year career at PMA, Photo Market Association International, and got to meet a lot of incredible people from throughout the world. And Jeff, you were at the top of the list, my friend. I mean, you were up there, and I got the privilege to be the liaison from PMA to we had a lot of these segment groups like school photographers, and you were sports photographers. And the topic that we're going to get into today, it's so fitting for you because one of my jobs for the listeners out there, you know this, is programming, sessions, speakers for our conventions that typically would be in Las Vegas or Orlando sometimes. And this is why I connected with Jeff Gump. And Jeff, let's get into this thing. Our theme is called Power of the Podium. Then we're going to get into some other things. And we're going to do what we always do, like when we chat on the phone or when we would have a couple of beers with the old tour that we would do. We're just going to let it roll. And if it goes into tangents, they're all going to be good tangents. But I want to talk about the power of the podium, how speaking got to be basically a core strength for you, even though you were a trained sports photographer, and we'll get back into that background a little bit more. But the power of the podium certainly has been something that has really propelled your career, has it not?
Yeah, one of the hardest things as a school and sports photographer, just like anything else, you have to sell.
Yeah.
The name of the game is sales. So in order to do that, you've got to be able to knock on doors to call a league or a high school and say, Coach, can I talk to you about your sports program? And you have to go to the coach and you have to give them a spiel and you have to do that over and over and over again. And so that's kind of how it all started, knocking on doors, getting jobs from schools and leagues. And then there was that opportunity that you gave me back in probably 05, 06.
Yep.
Heck, that was 15 years ago.
Yes.
And you gave me an opportunity to speak to a group of, say, 20 or 25 people in a lecture type environment. Yeah. And I was scared to death.
Jeff Gump scared to death. I can't believe no one of my colleagues would ever believe Jeff Gump was scared to death.
I did not know. I wasn't proficient about that topic. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember being nervous about it. But once I got in there, because we did it 3 times. And once I got in there and did it the first time and then went back and studied, what I could have said or learned more about the topic, number 2 and number 3 were no problem. And then here I am 15 years later, have spoke all over you guys sent me to Canada.
Yeah.
I went to Canada. It was my first time in Vancouver. I mean, I was a national speaker at that point. So just awesome. It's been a good run.
No, it has been a good run. And I think, you exemplified, Jeff, the power of the podium because, public speaking, I mean, you always hear about those top 10 fears in life. It's first day of the job, public speaking, they're up there at the top. Death is like number 6, way down there.
Sure.
But at the top is people get freaked out about public speaking. And that's why it was hard for me to get industry members to want to speak, because, they just everybody has that who doesn't have a lot of experience in it, would not want to speak. And you jumped into it and you told me I never spoke. And so I'm standing in the back of the room talking to my good friend and colleague, Ted Fox at the time. And I go, get a load of this dude, man. He's never spoken in front of everybody. And you were absolutely crushing it. So you just had, I think you rolled over how you correspond with people and just took that out in front of a group. And you might have been sweating all over the place, but it didn't show. I didn't see a bead of sweat coming out of your forehead, Jeff.
Well, I'm very fortunate because at this point now, most of my opportunities to share experience, and that's all I'm doing is sharing experiences. I mean, look at all the people that helped me, prior to getting the courage or the experience to speak. Tom Hayes,
yeah,
David Drum, some of those great photographers, business owners that I would go to and ask questions. I mean, they all helped me. So I kind of just felt I wanted to give back to the industry. And this is before anybody was speaking on sports in schools. That was kind of a hush hush. You don't talk about that particular segment of photography. And remember, we went through that. So it was tough.
Yeah. No, I know. And then you have to have the willingness to share, because a lot of speakers were not wanting to share their quote unquote content or their ideas or business strategies with other people. But the beauty of you and many others in the industry was the willingness to share with other industry. You're in different markets, and it's not like you're going head to head all the time. But and it's like then we went on the tours, and then what I noticed about you, Jeff, and this is why I want for other people out there, not photographic related, but just in business or an opportunity to speak at your local chamber of commerce, is that when you're up in front of there, you really can engage with people, and it's almost like you're making it conversational. Because what I would do, Jeff, as a programmer of content, when I would book a speaker, especially paid motivational people that I paid a lot of money for, would be to see how engaged the audience was. And when I would go up the side and kind of sit, lean up against the wall and look at the audience, and they were locked down on you, my friend. They were locked down. They had their legal pads out. They're scratching stuff down. I knew I hit a home run with you because you knew your stuff, and your passion came out of all your body language and your voice. And I think for people who want to get involved in public speaking, make sure you're passionate about your topic and what you do for a living, where your vocation is indeed a vacation. And that's the case with you, Joe.
Well, I mean, it's very kind of you to say, it looks like it comes natural. But I studied too. I mean, I had to learn some of the etiquette of being a good speaker, staying in the back of the room when people are coming in and shaking their hand and thanking them for coming and, spending an hour with me, and then get away from the podium, walk up and down the aisle with them.
Yes.
And another thing that really helped me was I made sure that everybody had a name tag on, and their name was large enough so that I could see it. I mean, as I'm walking around the room, I want to look and go, and Bob, tell me, or Cindy. And
everybody loves to hear their name. Everybody does. Yeah, absolutely.
And they love to tell stories. And that's what I'm a storyteller. That's really what it's all about.
Right. You brought up a point, and I'm not trying to criticize the title of this podcast that I came up with, The Power of the Podium. I mean, I was just using it because, it had two P's in it, alliteration. That when I say it should be the power of public speaking. Yeah. Is really, really what we're talking about here. Because the last thing you want to, when I watch somebody public speak, it's the speakers that are white knuckled holding on to the podium talking, that turns me off. Right. I like moving, and when I've public spoke, I move around. I mean, I got a lot of energy. I mean, I got a lot of nerve. I mean, that's just the way I'm wired. I mean, I can't sit still half the time. And so it fits well to move around, and what moving around and showing that energy, it gets that anxiety out of your body, and you become more relaxed, and you're going up and making a point to somebody. That's when you can see their name tag, as you talked about. That's why we're big on name tags at PMA and SPAA, that part of it. And just, and then listening, having, bringing in your audience. Another thing, what you did, Jeff, which always impressed me, is that you engaged the audience. You had them. What are your thoughts on that? Blah, blah, blah. That's when you know you got it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice when you have. I know this is kind of cheating, but it's nice when you have some ringers out there.
Yeah.
Out in the audience, and okay, Eric. So tell us, when people show up for your school shoot, how do you keep them organized and let that person stand up and take 2 minutes and talk a little bit, and that definitely engages people for sure.
No, it does, and it keeps people alert. It's like they got to be, hey, I might be called on here. It's like
you're absolutely
and
correct.
that's important, and you're not out there trying to put people on the spot. But the last thing you do when you want to go to a convention, or if you're attending a Rotary Club meeting where the public speaker, Chamber of Commerce, everybody's been to these kind of meetings when there's always the keynote speaker. You don't want to be just talked to and lectured to. You want to be engaged, right? I mean, as an attendee, I want to be engaged. I want to almost be a contributor if that speaker is willing to allow me to contribute, especially with a Q&A. And you were so good at that. And one other thing that I'll never forget, Jeff, not to go on and embarrass the hell out of you, is you offered, and I couldn't believe you said this. He says, about this willingness to share. Listen, if you come to Gump's Photography, you can watch me do my work. You can watch, but the only requirement, I'm going to put you to work. I'm going to put you to work. And their faces lit up because you made them feel, yeah, you're giving an opportunity to see how you do your business, but they're going to work for it. That was genius type of suggestion.
What blows my mind is the memory that you have. You pull up some stuff out of your brain that blows my mind. But as far as inviting them to come in and help out, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. I like to coach. I like to see people be successful. And I think that, before we had the Zooms and before we had the podcast, the only way they could get any experience is we would go and speak, or they'd have to show up at the photo shoot.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, I'm actually going to photographers, in my coaching program, I'm actually going out to photographers' studios and actually spending the weekend. And I mean, it goes as far as getting, them showing me all their equipment, loading up their trucks and their vehicles to go out on shoots. And then I go out on the shoot and I just watch them. I assess, how their shoot's going. And then after the shoot's over, we get together. I take photos and videos of, what they're doing and what they could do better and so forth. And then after I go to theirs, then I invite them to mine. And then when they walk up, they say, okay, I get it. I get it. He's been to mine. And then, that's just part of the coaching. And I just want to, gosh, I've shot over 1 million kids in sports and high schools.
1 million kids. And I'm bringing that out, I'm throwing some content to our viewers out there, and they're looking, oh my God, this guy has, he's photographed Tim Tebow, former Heisman Trophy, Chipper Jones, baseball player, Derrick Henry, the best running back, he's hurt right now in the NFL. Talk about a vocation is your vacation. I mean, how did you pull that off? And I wanted to mention you're in the Jacksonville, St. Augustine area where you've worked and live. I mean, that has provided you a lot of opportunities with the NFL. Why don't you tell our listeners about that, and they'll kind of be in envy of some of the stuff you got to do in your career.
Well, it's funny because when people ask me, or over the years, people have asked me, so what do you do for a living? And I tell them, why don't you guess? I'm going to give you a couple clues.
Yeah.
I say, it's the best man job that you could possibly have. Then I get bikini photographer, all that kind of stuff. And then when I tell them sports, they're so intrigued because we are very fortunate, you and me, because we've been down on the field. We've been close to the game a lot. 98% of the people have never had that situation.
Right.
For me, Jacksonville, Florida, Chipper Jones came through Bowles High School. Derrick Henry came through Yulee High School. These are right here in town.
Okay.
Tim Tebow, I was photographing him when he was 12 years old playing in Pop Warner. I mean, I've been to Russia.
Oh, my word.
I've been to Germany with Pop Warner because I was willing to go that extra mile. I was willing to, I don't know, I brown-nosed enough.
Well, step out of your comfort. You do things that some people might be leery about doing.
Absolutely. And so I've been able to do a lot of great things, but it's fun being, we are the high school sports photographer. That's Jacksonville Sports Photography. John Nunez and myself, we pretty much cover most of the high school sports in town. And the people that come through here, I mean, look at quarterback, replaced Tom Brady, Jones.
Oh, Mac Jones.
He's from Jacksonville.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
he went to the same school that Chipper Jones went to, which
Wow.
is the Bowles School. And I mean, he's only been gone 5 years, so we were photographing him. I mean, it's crazy.
National champion. National champion at Alabama was Mac Jones, and he's going to be a star. There's no question. Well, that's a hotbed of sports. You know, I want to go back to this thing when you were talking about the official photographer of the mascot for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the cheerleaders. Okay, the cheerleaders. Okay, now I'm going to throw a little nugget at you. I'm older than you, Jeff. That my first job and my passion level of sports writing was down in Houston. And one of the first couple weekends, my editor, Bobby Hanel, says, "Okay, Tom, I'm going to give you a camera, and I want you to take a bunch of photographs of the Houston Oilers were playing the Miami Dolphins, and get some close-ups of Earl Campbell, if you can, who was playing at the time." Sure. I go, "Okay, that sounds awesome, man. This is going to be great." So I go down there, and so I take all these photographs. And then I come back, and he's, in the dark room going through all the photographs. You did a decent job, Tom, but 2/3 of your images that you captured are of the Derek Dow cheerleaders. I mean, what's going on here? I go, sorry.
So for me, the best part was I didn't have to sneak and photograph the cheerleaders.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually had to sneak to photograph the football game.
Yes.
Think about that. It was totally opposite. Right. And I've got photos in my studio on my wall of all the famous football players that I did from about 99 to right about 2010. That was my heyday. And so I made sure that when I was photographing, whoever the star was of that team, I wanted to photograph. And so right now I'm not the official photographer anymore. They kind of run in a younger guy, somebody from the office. And that only happened in the last couple of years. But, you get to know, the cheerleaders. Let me tell you about one of the things we did. We went to Hilton Head Island, and we had a battle of the cheerleaders. And it was Philadelphia Eagle cheerleaders versus the Jaguar cheerleaders for 3 days. And it was intramural sports on the beach. Everybody was in a bikini. And they were all playing sports against each other and run.
So, I got to stop you. Is your wife listening to this podcast? Do we have to worry about blocking that out or not?
No, we're good with that one.
Okay.
She's a good wife.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, and so we were able to photograph that whole event, group photos and shots on the beach, and so you get an opportunity to get to know the cheerleaders as well. Mm-hmm. But if you've ever, the Philadelphia Eagle cheerleaders are a totally different group of cheerleaders than anyone in the United States. Back then, they actually made a lingerie calendar annually. Wow. So these girls were pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Pretty sharp. So that helped. Plus the mascot photographer, which is going in the Hall of Fame or inducted or has an opportunity to go in the Hall of Fame as the #1 mascot in all of sports. He was the guy that I was working directly with all those years. And then when he retired, so did Jeff.
Wow. Oh, yeah. But you had a great 8-year run. It sounded like, man, you can die to go to heaven right now.
Tom, I got to go to the Pro Bowl in Hawaii.
Yeah. Wow.
And I got to shoot the game, shoot the cheerleaders, go to the cheerleading parties. It was just unbelievable. And that was like 2006. Just phenomenal opportunity.
Wow. So I want you to, for our listeners out there, again, that, I'm going to get back to this topic about public speaking and just having that confidence. If you were to advise somebody who was in your scenario that back then, that first time you spoke, even though it didn't seem like you had any growing pains with it, what's your best piece of advice to break into that level of speaking where if you're a financial planner, you want to be in front of businessmen, you expose your business, what's the best piece of advice you can give them so they can get as fast as they can to the comfort level that you were at and just take it off from there? What would that advice be?
Well, first of all, as I've stated earlier, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to know the topic. In a lot of cases, I say that, but coaching is one of those things where if you're talking about business and you're talking about, let's say, keeping employees motivated, you're talking about sales, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're going to pretty much talk about the same thing because humans are humans no matter what field that they're in. I think for me for a lot of people, it doesn't come natural. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
Okay.
It's awkward. Well, you're exposed. You're up there. I mean, everybody's looking at you. You're the same. Back to 7th grade speech class. I mean, that's when you learn how hard it was. To do that. But I mean, but how do you get over that without picturing the audience in their underwear to make you loose? I mean, I'm I'm tongue in cheek here, but I mean, how do you do that?
Well, doing it as long as I have, and I've only stepped out of the industry 2 or 3 times, but the industry part I know. And
Right.
if you know something that well, you can speak about it because it's just like talking to your friends.
Right.
Okay. Right. I would say, I don't know. I still study. I'm a studier.
Preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to prepare. And I think any speaker is going to have to do their homework on the topic. And then talk to some people that are in the industry, find out what the weaknesses are in that industry,
right?
What everybody's having issues with. But you were talking about, look at everybody with they're in their underwear. I mean, we've all heard that before.
Yeah.
But again, I don't really think there's any one set of advice I can give on speaking. It's just something that, like you said, comes natural. For me, and I do my homework.
Yeah, it's preparation. It's the more you know, the better off you're going to be. The other thing I wanted to address at the back end of this podcast, Jeff, and I really appreciate you being on. We're just scratching the surface on this, and we're going to do a few more of these and some other big stuff that we'll tease later on. But when people say, people say to me, "Oh, Tom, you get to do, you're doing your passion thing. You're doing sports media." For the past 20 years. Actually, I combined that at PMA. Our late executive director, Roy Pung, allowed me to chase my dream about sports photography. I was doing both things at the same time, backing down on my PMA thing, because he knew how important that was to look at that career. And then I mushroomed out of that and into that later on. But to make your vocation a vacation, as the term that you and I use and many others around me use, what's your best bit of advice to that to actually try to make a living at something you're truly passionate about, even though it's really hard to monetize that? How do you keep fighting through to get to make that your living? Because that's exactly what you did. You love sports and you love photography. How do you blend those two together and make it happen from a monetary standpoint?
Well, in the photography industry, it's all about relationships.
Okay.
I build so many relationships with other industry leaders, labs, people who Neil Enterprise, if you remember them.
Oh, yeah.
H&H and Candid and ACI, all these people. I built relationships with them, and they need assistance in helping their customers as far as marketing and sales. And that's the number one thing, is sales and marketing is the number one thing in most businesses that people have trouble with. And I love sales and marketing. I love doing videos. I mean, I have a whole video library. But again, you have to have a team. It's not just one person going out there and saying, I'm going to conquer the world. Nobody's ever been successful without having a team. And that even takes me back, Tom, to Wolf Camera. I mean, I started out right out of high school working for Wolf Camera in Jacksonville, based out of Atlanta. It's Wolf Camera and Video,
right.
Chuck
Wolf.
Business.
Yep.
And I had a gentleman named Greg Bragg. Some of your listeners will know who Greg is. He works for Celestron now, but he was with some other companies since then. And he kind of took me under his wing and he taught me sales. He taught and I watched the marketing and sales because people are walking up to the counter and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in a camera. Tell me about it."
Yeah.
And it's sales. So that helped me in the very beginning. And then, then at that point, I met people along the way that shared with me before Facebook, before all these groups, and they helped me. I have so many mentors. So I am who I am because of many other people and hard work, of course.
No, absolutely. And passion. You got to be passionate. Can you imagine something or working a job that you didn't love doing?
Right?
I mean, relative to how your life and your career has evolved, Jeff, you just epitomize that. I want to tease, if we will. So on the banner below, Tom Steak Plus One banner, I have with the guest Jeff Gump Solutions and Coach Gump. Explain a little bit what Gump Solutions is, and then let's tease a little bit, if you will, this Coach Gump aspect of your business that's going to roll out in early 2022.
About 15 years ago, I decided, somewhere around then, I decided I wanted to stretch out and do some coaching. I wanted to share with other photographers. And I've been very fortunate. I've worked with some really great customers where I've done consulting for them for a whole year, studios, big name studios. And where every week I would go to their location. Again, this is before Zoom, because Zoom's only really been here for the last couple of years. And I would go to their studio every week. We'd have meetings. I'd go out on shoots and so forth. And I really, really liked it. And that was something I was very passionate about. So I started Gump Solutions, just kind of a venue website that I have that basically the company talks about where I'm going to be speaking. It gives the sponsors that I have an opportunity for them to show, for me to show the photographers, the business people who want me to speak, that I'm with, Fuji as an example. They're one of my sponsors, and Candid Color is one of my sponsors. And these are big names in the industry, and it gives them a platform. And it also allows me to show some videos. And in our industry, Tom, and the volume, I still go back to that. There's no one coaching.
Right.
I mean, nobody that's doing it on a full-time basis. Everybody's sharing. We started the sharing back in our day, you and I.
Yeah.
And now, it's gone rampant. Everybody's sharing on social media. So I put it together so that I can go one-on-one with people. I want to, continue what I'm doing, share my knowledge, and I've got an arsenal of information, and it's all cataloged and ready to go, and I just really am passionate about it. And, I'm 57 years old. Yeah. My wife says that you're never going to stop working. And that's because she's not going to let me.
Yeah. Whatever. Hey, if you love what you do, but you know what? You make a point in the industry. You're right. There's probably not, there's not a lot of coaching I'm seeing in the photography industry, and a lot of industries. I hear the term life coach. Yeah, I want to be a life coach, which is, which almost can be kind of like a /therapist, non-certified therapist. Life coach, you're telling them how to get through anxiety moments. You're trying to get them through personal moments, maybe career moments. But to have a coach in that specific industry that you know so well and are so passionate about, and you're the only guy out there, I mean, this is this is like shooting fish in a barrel, man. This is a home run for you, Jeff. I see great things in 2022 with that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. Again, in all the industries, you've got these Facebook groups. So somebody comes on the group and says, I need a source for plaques. And then you got 100 people on there going, hey, buy it from this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. So you have that, but nobody spends one-on-one time with them and learns the challenges of these companies and what their setbacks are. For me, I just want to make sure that I can take a company and just take them to their maximum potential. That's all I can do. Well,
and you're really good at it, Jeff. So for listeners and followers and viewers of this podcast, how would they get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you for some advice, or just to delve into what you're doing and what your plans are moving forward, whether they're in the photographic industry or they're not? Because there's so much applicable for what you do. In my estimation, you can plug and play as a template into other industries. How would they get a hold of you, Jeff? Via email or website?
Jeff at gumpsolutions.com.
Okay.
Is the easiest way. they can go to the website, and if they want more information, they can hit contact us. It'll come to me as well. Or, realistically, just reach out on the phone. They can even call me on the business line, which is 904-219-2295. And just call me, and we'll chat for a few minutes and find out if there's something I can do to help. And I really think that if somebody's calling, the chances for me to help them in their business, it's not about how to take a photo. It's not about the camera. It's about how do I get to the next level, and will you help me?
Yeah, no, that's great, Jeff. Hey, this has been a pleasure. You're more of a friend than you are an associate. I'll say it right now. And we got some good plans. We're going to have some good things. We're going to work some projects you and I are going to be working with together that we're going to tease and roll out in 2022. I'm excited about it as much as I'm excited about the Michigan Wolverine football team. So that says a lot right there, Jeff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, when was the last time somebody did this and talked about you and your marketing and all the great things you're doing? Probably a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not comfortable talking about me. I'm
I know,
going to talk about the other person.
You got great stories. You've had a great life.
I got stories, and they'll seep out. Especially a person like you, Jeff. You bring it out of me because that's the way. That's why you're so good at what you do. You engage the other person. So in our conversations, and some other people, I find myself talking more than I'm comfortable. But that's what you bring out. So I appreciate it. Anyway, awesome. Jeff Gump, great job again. Jeff Gump, Gump Solutions, Coach Gump. Here on the Crawford Podcasting Network. Thanks so much. We'll be talking soon to you, and happy holidays to you, Jeff.
Thank you. I look forward to it, Tom.